Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Sorry, this is the third part of the video. Sorry, there is sort of interruption, because of net unloading problem. So the final or last point we were talking about was views. Holidays view or views regarding language and reality. You see that, as we have said, holiday focuses on the idea of contextualization. And he has criticized, by the way, traditional lexicographers for dealing with dictionary or separate words to define, to identify their meaning. So he has said traditional lexicographers have separated linguistic knowledge by a process of what so they have separated this knowledge via decontextualization, trying to describe the meaning of words. So what happens here, according to Halliday, if we detach, you see that, from a word all its links to relevant context, if we take it outside the context, we should be left with what? With the isolated unadulterated meaning. We get the dictionary meaning only here. And this does not match, the all meanings that we use in daily life or in everyday discourse. Last point here, for Halliday, he said that access to modern corpora has made it possible to study text far more intensively, and corpus linguists are now able to show the semantic cohesion of textual segments. Here the focus on the semantic cohesion. That words in general, when we study or when we have studied cohesive ties, you have written, by the way, assignment on this topic. Usually linguistic signs or lexical items are tied to each other within a text, within a discourse, via cohesive ties, and we have repetition. For example, here we have different types of reference, where we have anaphora, cataphora, and so on, and even sometimes via ellipses. We have different types of cohesive types, because when we talk, we do not talk separately by using individual words. Lexemes or words do not appear separately, but usually they occur within a context, and intended meaning is usually determined by the context. So implicitly, as we have seen, that Halliday was completely against the idea of decontextualization of lexical items or meaning. He said that meaning should be studied or investigated through context or through interaction. The meaning that we get from the dictionary is not sufficient, to give us different types of connotations that a word might have. By the way, just the last point I would like to refer here. I have consulted a number of references regarding this lecture. Chomsky, for example, or Firth, also Halliday. You see that two references for Halliday, and Hassan also. Finally, Radford, you see that Andrew Radford in his book also, Linguistics and Introduction. He has, by the way, as we know, that Radford is also a mentalist, and he looks at meaning from a cognitive point of view. By this we come to the last part of the video, and this is the last point. Once again, I'd just like to remind you that by this, so we have understood that the meaning now has been treated differently by different schools of thought. And that is why here we cannot, study meaning from only one perspective. We have to follow up the theory of meaning. But as we have seen that two important linguists or even influential and explicit theoreticians regarding the theory of meaning are Ferdinand de Saussure and Firth. They have actually shaped the way that many linguists talk about meaning. So, Saussure's contribution was to the nature of linguistic science, where we have a sort of combination between signified, the concept or meaning, and then the signifier. And the other contribution was for what arbitrariness. The arbitrary, you see that, not just, of course, referring to the lack of logical or natural connection between the meaning of a word or a phrase and the spoken written form, which represent that meaning, but it is also evident, at the universal level, when we compare languages, we will find that their signs and meanings do not neatly match each other. And he justifies this, that he says that languages often see the world very differently. Technically speaking, languages structure experience of meaning in different ways. Well, first views, as we have seen, who is a leading figure in mid-20th century British linguistics, has focused on meaning and use. For him, meaning is function in context here. He focuses on function. You see that for holidays also, he considers language as a social behavior and then meaning as a social phenomenon,